ทางบ้านที่กำลังชมรายการของกระผมอยู่วันนี้ผมเรียนว่าเป็นรายการพิเศษที่ผมจะขออนุญาตสัมภาษณ์ทนายความระดับนานาชาติที่มีชื่อเสียงคนหนึ่งถือว่าเขาเป็น1 ใน 100ทนายความของโลกที่ดูแลคดีเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการละเมิดสิทธิมนุษยชนถึงแม้ว่ากฎหมายของแต่ละประเทศที่เป็นประเทศกำลังพัฒนาจะไม่ค่อยให้ความสนใจแต่เรื่องนี้เนี่ยมีกฎหมายระหว่างประเทศที่ชื่อว่า International Covenant for Political and Civil Rights หรือ Civil and Political Rights ก็คือเป็นการผิดกฎบัตรขององค์การสหประชาชาติทั้งเรื่องกฎบัตรว่าด้วยสิทธิมนุษยชนนะครับเพราะฉะนั้นวันนี้มี3เรื่องที่ผมใคร่จะเรียนถามคุณโรเบิร์ตอัมสเตอร์ดัมซึ่งขณะนี้อยู่ที่กรุงลอนดอนประเทศอังกฤษเรื่องที่1ที่ผมจะตั้งคำถามก็คืออย่างที่พี่น้องประชาชนสนใจและถามมาว่าขณะนี้กรณีการร้องเรียนเกี่ยวกับการสังหารกลางกรุงเทพของประเทศไทยมีความก้าวหน้าไปถึงไหนในศาลอาญาโลกแล้วเรื่องที่2ก็คือขณะนี้มีนักการเมืองไทยมีคนไทยได้ร้องเรียนเกี่ยวกับเรื่องการยุบพรรคการเมืองอย่างน้อย4 พรรคครับในประเทศไทยแล้วก็ร้องเรียนไปที่ IPU เป็นองค์การสหภาพรัฐสภาโลกนะครับเป็นองค์การทางด้านนิติบัญญัติก็เขารับเรื่องแล้วจะมีการพิจารณากันในวันที่17 ถึง 20 มกราคมที่จะถึงนี้คือสัปดาห์ที่จะถึงที่จะตามมานี่ผมก็เรียนถามเรื่องนี้กับทนายความที่ชื่อโรเบิร์ตอัมสเตอร์ดัมขณะนี้คุณโรเบิร์ตอัมสเตอร์ดัมอยู่ในสายแล้วผมจะขอเชิญท่านผู้ชมพบกับคุณโรเบิร์ตอัมสเตอร์ดัมนะครับ Hello Bob
Good afternoon
Good afternoon I would like to make this in full screen now so that people can see you more You are now in full screen very smart and very handsome I would like to invite you to join me in this program televised live to the Thai people throughout the world, throughout the country, on 3 topics. On the first one, I would like to report a little bit that now the Thai government has lifted the emergency law, which has been announced for more than half a year in Thailand. And now they somewhat are preparing for the general election again after the amendment of the present constitution in about 2 articles. The important one is only to adjust the number of member parliaments, but we are not much interested in what's going to be done because this is not going to make up any progress on democracy development in Thailand at all. It might be the act of reconciliation, but many Thai people do not believe that it would be a kind of reconciliation in Thailand. But people are more interested in the case that you've been kind enough to propose or to report to the ICC in regard to the Bangkok massacre or the mass killing of the wretched people in Bangkok, which left 91 at least dead and about almost 2,000 wounded. People are now following up the progress in the ICC. I would like you to report about that. And after completing that, I would like you to talk a little bit about the dissolution of 4 political parties in Thailand, as well as the privation of the political rights of at least 215 Thai politicians or Thai parliamentarians, former parliamentarians. Now the IPU has accepted the appeal to be taken on the table from the 17th to 20th of January, the coming week. I would like you to also pay attention and say something about that. First, let's start from the ICC case. May I ask you about the progress of what has been done so far and what has the ICC done for taking care of what has been proposed? Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you for taking the time to speak with me. Firstly, as you are aware, our first application was merely an introductory application. It was, in fact, not formally filed because it was a matter of informing the ICC of the grave crimes that have taken place in Thailand. On January 31st, we will file a formal request for the prosecutor to consider the situation in Thailand and to consider acting on the information that we are supplying him with. The application itself, I can tell you, is already complete. We are, I would say, we ourselves are quite surprised by how much information people have provided to us.
Yes. You have enough information now?
One of the key issues
Okay.
is what I call the strategy of tension. We will demonstrate through this application that much of what the government has alleged the red shirts did in terms of provocative acts were actually the work of the government itself. In a series of startling witness statements and through the use of forensic experts, we have been able in certain circumstances to document the fact that the government of Thailand has engaged in a series of discrete frauds in an attempt to discredit the red shirts. So we believe that this series of frauds, culminating in the shopping center fire, which we believe evidence would suggest was set by the army, not by the red shirts, will demonstrate a pattern of conduct. And let me be very clear, part of our argument will be that the reconciliation, the peace and reconciliation investigations that have been proposed by the government are frankly another in a series of frauds. I have said it before and I will say it again, there is probably nothing as dangerous to human rights than when a government like that of Thailand fraudulently uses words like peace and reconciliation to hide arbitrary arrest, arbitrary detention, torture, and disappearances. This government is not a government. It is a military junta whose legitimacy comes from the end of a bayonet. And it is our job to demonstrate to the world that this junta is fraudulent and that the leaders of this junta deserve to be put on trial. And I can tell you with conviction that the ICC is only the first of many steps internationally to bring these wrongdoers to justice. I don't care how many years Abbasid spent at Eton or any of these good schools, he obviously didn't learn a thing about morality. He didn't learn a thing about how to deal with fellow citizens, about how to protect the Constitution. He didn't learn a thing about not lying. He didn't learn a thing about developing the independence of the judiciary. He didn't learn a thing about having the strength of your convictions. He didn't learn a thing about not being a coward who is unwilling and unable to provide his people with the reality of a government that is independent and legitimate. And I can tell you that the 70 or so pages of our complaint that we will file with this prosecutor will document that this Orwellian organization called CRESS was involved in the promotion of violence, not in the suppression of violence. It was involved in the defamation of citizens, not in the protection of citizens. Okay. It is outrageous, simply outrageous, the level of malfeasance of the government, compounded by incompetence, compounded by an incredible inferiority and sense of fear that these people in power share. And it is just shocking to me the misuse of the lèse-majesté power by the Democrat Party to attempt to shut people up from commenting on their fascist-style behavior that we've seen in this outrageous situation with the court that has been videotaped.
Well,
I truly think the behavior... Sure, go ahead.
Yes. There are a few points that I would like to make it clear to the Thai public. Number one is that the application now has not been submitted formally. Is that right?
That's right. We intend to do this on January 31st.
Okay, January 31st would be the date of submission. Okay.
Yes.
Secondly, I understand that the timing of the case to be considered or to be taken by the ICC, there is no time limit for this case, even if this opposite government is already out of office. Is that correct?
That's right. In fact, one of the important things to recognize is the principle of complementarity. The ICC stands for the proposition that national governments should put people on trial who commit international crimes. It may be that if Thailand is brought back to a situation of democracy, that a real government might be able to possibly try some of these wrongdoers. So the ICC will look first to what is Thailand's record. And part of what we will argue is that certainly today, Thailand, under the language of the statute, is unable or unwilling to bring these people to justice. And that's why we are making the reconciliation program of the government part of the crime against humanity, because it was a complete fraud. It was modeled, I think, on the attempts of self-amnesty by the junta in Chile. I mean, Mr. Abbasit and his friends have studied, I think, how the military in Brazil and Chile and Argentina, after what they did to their populations, tried to develop self-amnesties. And that's, I believe, what they've used as a precedent for their own.
Okay. I am sure that this case is against the military-backed government with very strong power in Thailand. Do you believe that at the present moment, when this present government is still in power, this case to the ICC would have a lot of obstacles on your way to do the case?
There are a tremendous number of obstacles. Absolutely tremendous.
Okay.
This is a case really of first instance. But I will tell you this. No one would have believed 10 years ago that the ICC would have acted in the Kenya election case, which they've just done. This area of international criminal law is growing exponentially. So our ability now to document as best we can the fraudulent and criminal nature, not only of the murders, but of the subsequent cover-up and the phony reconciliation attempt, this is all critical, not only for the ICC, but for future international courts. Remember, foreigners were killed as well, and those foreigners have international claims as well against the present junta.
The Thai people are worrying that number one, whether the ICC would accept the case that you would be submitting in the end of the month, and secondly, after they accept it, I do not know how much percentage in your view, with the evidence and the procedure that you and your team have done, that the ICC would not be denying or would be accepting. Do you think it's more than 60, 80% or somewhat? Can you say that?
No, it would be presumptuous and wrong for me to start giving percentages. Okay. It is extremely difficult. However, It is an ongoing process. We will continue to develop more information. We will continue to speak to the ICC and international bodies. This document will be joined by a website that will be a permanent website, which will include all of the various work products we've engaged in, as well as a memorial to the dead and a reminder of those illegally imprisoned and wounded. So this is called by us the Accountability Project. And this will be on the internet forever in Thai and in English. And people will be able to interact with this and add to the information we have.
So you also think that this electronic media would be helping a lot in this case because of the fast moving of information to from the world or from Thailand to the ICC. Would that be helping?
Well, yes, and let me say this. Since we distributed our first ICC initiative,
okay,
the amount of important new information we've obtained is absolutely beyond any expectation.
More than the cases you've done it before.
People have really quite heroically come forward. People that one would not normally expect to do so, because they have been so, frankly, disgusted by the conduct of the present junta.
The evidences that you have gathered so far, do you feel that there are enough evidences for submitting to accompany your application to the ICC by the end of the month?
Again, look, it's never enough.
Okay.
As far as I'm concerned. We always will need more, but I think we certainly can present to the ICC and other courts over time evidence which would, I believe, prove that the government was engaged in what I've called for many months a strategy of tension in an attempt to destroy a political group, the Red Shirts.
Okay.
They used violence, intimidation, control of the administrative means of the government, the judiciary. They've used every instrument at their disposal to suppress what they viewed as a coherent political opposition, in violation of international law, in violation of international human rights, in violation of any form of morality, be that Thai morality or any other morality. There is no basis in any law or morality at all for the kind of conduct that we believe Cress was engaged in.
Okay. Well, as I discussed to you last time, Bob, that the problem in Thailand is not really the election, or you might have seen by your own eyes when you came here in Thailand May last year or April. I think that now they are directing for general election, which we believe that this would not be some kind of reconciliation for the nation at all. And even after the election, after the opposition party wins, we do not believe that the Thai government will come back to normal or real democracy. So we think the coming election would not solve the problem or would not be some kind of reconciliation for Thailand. This is one thing. Or it might be even the very big fraud election, or might be the largest in history, because the government is not popular at all, but they might win the election. This is worrying many Thai people. So this is just the comment that I would like to make for the coming future. So people tend to rely or to expect for the outcome from the ICC, which we also do not have any imagination what the outcome would be. So that's why the people are very much interested in your writing, in your work.
Well, I understand very well that part of why they're interested is that they see no hope within Thailand. I recognize that very well.
Okay.
And the only thing I can say is that I have been involved in my career with many cases which at their beginning seemed hopeless, and yet at the end we've managed to obtain a result. In other political cases, like my friend Khodorkovsky in Russia, who still remains behind bars, the power of those that control the system is too much for today. But in Thailand, there's a different scenario. In Thailand, there is people power. There is a force that is massive in its power, which is that of the people. We've seen it in Ukraine during the revolution there. We've seen it in the Philippines. We've seen it in many places. So let's not bet against ourselves. Let's bet on ourselves. Let's put all the evidence we can get together. Let's educate the world about what is really happening in Thailand. And then when an election comes, let's have millions of people monitoring the election to make sure it's being conducted fairly and equitably. And most of all, peacefully, because there is nothing that we can do that is more important than engaging in strictly peaceful protest. What we have learned in our investigations is that the government is attempting to portray the red shirts as violent. The government are fraudulently parading people around as men in black, when in fact this may well be an inter-army dispute in an attempt to defame the red shirts. It is absolutely critical that only peaceful protest occur. I can't say it enough. Nothing could damage the red shirts more than violence.
Okay, Bob, I understand, and thank you for your